Hello, I'm Miss Emma, creator of the Speech Sound Pics approach. This video is for teachers with prep children. This covers the first 5 weeks of the SSP programme. This is phase 1 and going into phase 2. Within phase 2, there are actually 4 code levels: green, purple, yellow and blue. But what matters at every level is not just that the children recognise what you might call as the letter sounds, it's that they can use them, that they're all meaningful, that they can write words with them, write words in sentences with them, they can read words, read sentences. We're actually developing reading, writing and spelling skills. It's not just about learning letter sounds. Parents could of course do this at home, or you can do this in preschool. You can see in front of you the mini code cracker kit. You can order it on wiringbrains.com. But these are all the things I want you to do within the first half term of prep. If you're starting it at any time in prep, the following is what you'll cover in around the first 4 to 5 weeks. And it's really, really important because this transitional stage from phase 1 to phase 2, which is your phonemic awareness and oral language, into using the code, into code mapping, is the most important stage there is. When children miss this out, they are never going to become effective spellers and children who read for pleasure with fluency and comprehension if they have poor phonemic awareness. In phase 1, we're listening for the pure speech sounds in words, and green level words are made up of these sounds: s, a, t, p, I, n. So the focus is on 6 speech sounds. I want you to make sure that you understand the word that is associated with the visual prompts. The children need to know the associated word as quickly as possible. Here are a few: ant, tap, pants, pat, knits, nap, sip, pan, pin, pin spins, normally spins, snip, tin, spin, tan. And they need to use their duck hands to split those words from left to right. The earlier they can understand you when you're speaking in speech sounds, and when they can also speak in speech sounds themselves, the better, for a wide range of different reasons, primarily to overcome poor phonemic awareness issues, and also for articulation of speech sounds. Initially, it really doesn't matter which hand they use for their duck hands. What matters is really that they're using their duck hands to split those speech sounds, but also that they are going from their left to their right. So when you're doing it in front of them, make sure you're doing it from your right to your right to your left, so that you're mirroring it. But when they come to writing or drawing the lines whilst they're using the duck hands, of course they're going to have to do it in the non-dominant hand. Now in front of you, you can see visual prompt cards where we've done the lines and numbers for them. We're doing this for phonemic awareness, and this is for segmenting. So it's making sure they understand the order that the speech sounds go in, and that they almost they're seeing the speech sounds from left to right. Because what they're going to be doing, writing is just talking on paper. So when they can say the word like sip, they need to identify the first sound is s, then I, then p. They need to identify all the sounds in the words, and that's why all of our words are made up of just s, at, p, I, n, because we want to focus on those 6 sounds. There's no point having a word that's got other sound pics or other sounds in it that we haven't covered yet. So all of these visual prompts and all of the words the children can actually code because they're using every sound pic. So in this, we want them to be able to map just speech sounds We want them to be able to map the speech sounds with the lines. So at the moment there's no print, there's no need for print, because if the children can't map without the letters, then they're going to struggle when you introduce the letters. And this is why it's very important that we're using phonemic awareness oral language before we even introduce the print. Children with poor phonemic awareness will need longer before they're actually ready to really start using print. They can learn to memorize it and do all the right things when they tell them whatever. They can even look at an A and say ah, or whatever you want them to do. They can do an action, but they won't understand what it is. It will be meaningless. So the resources at the beginning for phase 1 are making sure that you understand which children have got good phonemic awareness and which haven't. So for example on here, if I said, can you play the word, because we're always playing the word from left to right, and we'll wiggle our fingers, so we'll wiggle sip, sip. So we're always doing the sounds and then blending it into the word. But then if I say, where do you play p? We want to see, do they wiggle their fingers on number 3? Where do you play s? Do they wiggle it on number 1? I might say to them, what do I play on number 2? Can they identify that that's I? No letter names. Now, if by any chance you have a child that says I, then you can say, yes, fantastic, that's his name, but tell me the sound. We're only playing the sounds, not the letter names. Letter names are not important other than for labels, and until around the end of the purple level you don't need letter names, and there are specific reasons why your children who are going to struggle, you need to make sure you don't do letter names with them. So just don't do letter names with anybody, because the children who are not going to struggle, it doesn't matter whether you do or you don't, they're going to get it anyway. No letter names, can't stress that enough. Now some of them, like this one, knits, it's actually quite hard to hear those last sounds, so just play it for them. N, I, t, s, knits. You might get them to look at your mouth, how you're shaping, how you're making those sounds. They're trying it. N, I, t, s, knits. Where did I hear s? Number 4. Where? Pants. P, a, n, t, s, pants. They'll also have cards with just the visual prompt, and then they've got to look at these. These are printed and laminated, and they've got to think, where do I play ant? Is it the top one? No, it's not one. It's not the one with the 1, 2. Ant. Ant. And they'll actually play it to see which is the right one. And this is also actually helps with your one-to-one counting. But ant, ant, ant. So it's that line there with just the 3. So that's another activity. You play bingo, you play snap, you play lots of different games. You might have these cards. Again, they're in the members area. But what you do is you might have one child as the conductor, or you might be the conductor. And they choose a sound. So it can be any of them. At, put it in. So if the conductor says s, then the children look at theirs. Here we've got snip and we've got sip. So the child could cover number 1 on the first one, because s, n, ip, and number 1 on the second one, s, ip. So they can put 2 counters on number 1 and number 1. Then the child or the conductor, I call them conductors. Instead of teachers, we're always SSP conductors, because it's just a different style of teaching. You're much more of a guide and orchestrating everything, so everybody works in harmony and everybody's busy and whatever, rather than necessarily a teacher, which I tend to think of someone at the front talking at the children. Not everybody's listening, not everybody's engaged, whatever. But anyway, so let's say that the conductor said well, then the child that's got snip is going to put a counter on number 2. So the first person that fills them up obviously wins. When you've got children that are doing their letters, then you could do it in the way that instead of counters, they actually then draw the sound pick on the lines. So when the children understand, for example, the word sip, that I hear s, I, p, 3 sounds, where they sit, the order and what have you. When then I'm saying, let's take a picture of that speech sound. So if I say s, let's take a picture and let's see what it might look like. Then when you introduce what you might think of as an S, again, that's just the label. When we introduce that, then this is just a picture of the speech sound. They're all pictures of speech sounds. I want you to think that although there are 26 letters, there are about 200 combinations of those letters to represent all of the speech sounds in every word in the English language. So we've got 26 letters, about 40 something speech sounds, I say something because, of course, some of them are two speech sounds represented by one letter or two letters. Think of k, s, like ducks, ducks. But then think of the word like box, box. It's still four sounds, but in box we represent the k, s with an X. So when we're using our magic speech sound camera, it's to take pictures of the speech sounds we've been listening for and that we've been articulating. We've been thinking, what do our mouths do when we say ah, t, p, I, s, etc. So it's a logical progression for them. And also the terminology is very important. This is one of the pictures for s. And it really is only one of them. There are about 11 ways to represent that sound, s. So we don't want to start off with things like S says S or whatever, because it's just a nonsense. It doesn't actually make sense and it's actually incorrect. It's going to be misleading to the children. So everything in SSP is about the terminology. It's about the scaffolded approach, so every child understands what we're doing. So the next logical progression is that they're going to be introduced to the first picture of those sounds. So they're going to be introduced to the first 6 sound pics. As I say, they're letters, but they're seen as pictures of speech sounds. At the same time as recognizing them as a picture of s and a picture of a and t and p and I and n, the children also got to form them correctly. And this is why we use the read, write, ink letter formation phrase, because not only is it going to make sure that the children are forming those letters correctly, but there's also the link with the speech sound. So the children are going to look at that s and think, slither down the snake, so it's helping them with their forming, but also thinking of snake. Even though it has got sounds in it that we've not covered yet, and the sound pics, if you were to actually write snake, we haven't covered that yet, but just for this purpose, just for letter formation, we're going to say slither down the snake for the picture of s, round the apple, up and down the leaf for the picture of a, down the tower, across the tower for the picture of t, down his plait, up round his head for the picture of p, down his body and dot for his head for the picture of I, down Nobby, up and over his net for the picture of n. So we've got a snake, an apple, a tower, a pirate, an insect and Nobby, who's a soccer player. These cards as well you can print off from the printable resources area. So we think it, sit, and then we draw it, slither down the snake, and there's a video, you can just put it on and I'm going through them. Now what we're actually going to do is all 26 letters, even though the focus for the coding is just sapin, it's just the s, at, p, it, n. But from very early on you can start on the 26 letters, and actually it really helps them. Think about as they're drawing a C and they're saying round the curly caterpillar, and they're hearing it on the video and they're doing it and they're drawing it on the laminated sheet, so they're going over the top of it with their whiteboard pens. Even though we're not covering k until the purple level, it still means they're forming it, and actually it will trigger those links between the speech sounds and the sound pics. So when we actually get up to the other levels, they've already done it, they've already seen it. All the time we're reinforcing current skills and what we're learning at the moment, but we're always introducing them to other things that they're going to be meeting. So it's never a shock. It's never a massive amount of information in one go. They're always reinforcing what they already know and learning a little bit more. So once you start forming the letters, do 5 a day. Well, 6 on one day, obviously, use 26 letters of the alphabet. But just do 5 a day. Make sure that they're covering them and have them out on the writing tables so that they can practice them all the time. The ones I've given you have got a picture of a pencil, so it shows them where to start. And send them home, send the phrases home so the parents learn the phrases and can help them at home. You've also got all 26 in order from A to Z on tabletop strips that you have on the tables all the time. Because obviously children are they might hear sip, for example, and they know it's sip. But they didn't need that trigger for, well, what does this look like? And this is again why it helps, because slither down the snake, oh, I remember it now. But have it on the table so it's visual learners. Have it on the table so that the children can remember, and also because the strips have got the capital letters as well. So here are some preschool children. It's the first time we've actually introduced the letter formation. Now you found that when you're talking quite loudly, you actually add a little sound when you're saying the pure speech sounds. So you can often find yourself, instead of saying p, you'll end up saying p. So you've added that sound, and I do apologise, you'll hear in this clip.
Oh yes, look at this one. Who can find the picture of s? Who can find it in there? Look, there's the s. Who can find it in here? Look in here. Axel! Give me a high five, you found it. Look, there's the s and there's the s. Who can find that ah? Where's the ah? Where's the ah? Yes, there's the ah. Where's the ah here? We've got, is that an ah or is that an, yes, Ruby. Amazing, we found a s and we found an ah. Let me see. Oh, we've got a t, s, a, t, put it in. Whoops. Let me see. Where's the I in here? Look, it looks like this. There's the I. Where is it in there? You found it. And look, what's this one? Where's the same one like that one? Have another look. Which one is it?
Which one is it?
I don't know. What is it? Is it an ah? Ah, oh, Axel. Yes, it's there. That's amazing. Now look, because when we're reading, look what I do. I've just got to look at this and think, what's that a picture of? So if I say s-a-d, what's the word? Sad. S-a-d, sad. What's this word? D-ad. D-ad. What's the word? D-ad. 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 Dad. That's the word dad. D-ad. Dad, sad dad. Why is dad sad?
What's that one say?
F-t. Is it f or a t?
Can I
Looks
try
like a
to
t to
do
me.
it?
We've got sad dad. Why is dad? You try and do it. See if you do the t. And look, this is what we say. We go down the tower, across the tower. You get a pen and you can do it on there. Do you want to do the s? So we start. Oh, let's start at the top of the s. And we go slither down the snake. Let me find your pen. Can you go next door and ask Teresa for a pen? There you go. So, well, you need a pen as well. Ruby, go and get a pen from next door. Look! That's a big capital ah. Oh, Axel, go over the little ah, the lowercase ah. So go round the apple, up, down the leaf. Let me show you this. Go round the apple, up and down the leaf. Now you do it. Start at the top here. Round the apple. Yes, round the apple. Up and down the leaf. I think you are so clever. Do you know that? I think you're so clever. Can you do it on the other side as well? Ready? So start here and go round the apple.
Can we have one?
Round that one as well. So down, Nobby, up over his net. Down. Oh, you went up. So watch. So watch. That's why we go down, Nobby, up over his net. Now you do it. So make sure you go down first. Down, Nobby, up over his net. That's beautiful. Take a picture. There it is. Look at it. It goes down like that. It's like an insect. Down his body and down. I know it's like an insect. It's like what's that? Is that a what is it? Is that a cricket? Is that a grasshopper? I don't know what it is. Down his body and dot for his head. Down his body and dot for his head. Let's see if we can find one. No, not one in there. Let's see you can find it first. Oh, do you? And it's also a picture for, oh, let's have a look. Is there it in there? No, let's have a look. Isn't it in there? No, let's have a look. Isn't it in there? Oh, yes, it's just there. Look at that. Down his body and dot for his head. Oh, are you ready? Down his body and dot for his head. They just haven't done the little bit at the bottom, so we're ready to do the next word. But still, one of the pictures for it. Oh, are you ready? Let's see if we've got another it anywhere. No? Another picture for it anywhere? Oh, it's just there. No, you do it. Down his body and dot for his head. Down his body and dot for his head. And in this word, he really is a picture for it. Because this one is put it in k. What's the word? Put it in.
Ice cream.
There's ice cream. But here, look.
I love pink and purple.
Yes, pink, pink, pink. But listen to the word. Put ink. Put ink. Yes! So here that is a picture for, because
Then you're moving up from the children being able to play the words. What's going to sit on number 1? Well, what's the picture for that one? So like pan, atten. What sits on number 1? Can you take a picture of What's it look like? Can you find the picture of So they start to build the words because they're understanding, hearing the sounds, or which are the pictures for those sounds, which order they sit in, and always make sure that afterwards they follow the sound, say the word. Follow the sound, say the word is a technique we use all the time. Atten, pan. And they also sometimes say scan it and say it in a speaking voice, so not real voice. So they scan it and then they just say pan. Also get them to look for those sound pics in environmental print or in the books. So right from the beginning, you're actually getting them to realise that the words they see around, all these squiggles that they see, we want them to identify the sound pics they recognise. So here we're going to look for some sound pics in some of the books that we have. These are again with some preschool children, and this is again the first time they've done it. With sound pic detectives.
Teresa, could you hold up the slither down the snake so everyone can look at it? Can everyone see the slither down the snake? That reminds us how to draw the picture. Now can everyone look there? I'm going to see who can find a picture of in a book first. Quick! Who can find the pictures in a book first? Have a look. Who can find a book? Who can find a picture of, and if you can't remember, look at it.
Slither down the snake.
Slither down the snake, can you see it?
It's here. This is it. This is what you're looking for.
So have a look in your book. Where is it? Where is it? Slither down the snake. Look for slither down the snake.
That's a funny sound.
It is a funny sound. Slither down the snake. Show it to the camera. You've found slither down. You found the like slither down the snake.
Well done.
Oh, did you find slither down the snake?
Excuse me, what the what?
Did you find slither down the snake?
Do you have a in there somewhere?
Oh, Ruby.
Did you find one? Did you find one?
Who else has found one?
Let's see if there's one there. Can you find a
Ruby found one. Do you have one?
Oh, show me. Show the camera.
Ruby found the first
Yes.
one. Ruby,
Give me a
let's
high
play with the train for a minute. No, yes.
Good job. Did you find one too?
And then we're going to do another one and then we'll see you
Let's have a look. Did you find a
ninja?
Let's see.
I did find
You found another one. Wow, Lenny.
Wow.
Good job, Amy.
Did you find it?
Yes.
Right, let's see who can find this one. Are you ready?
Good job.
Well done,
Are you
Michael.
ready? Who can find a picture of when we say it, we go round the apple, up, down the leaf. Show it to the camera. Show it to the camera.
Good girl.
Oh, Ruby. Ruby gets to
Show me.
with the camera.
Show me.
Ruby gets to play with the
Show me,
camera.
Lenny.
Ruby gets to choose the camera.
Lenny found one too.
Oh, well done. So you play with that and then Lenny. Oh, let's see who finds the next one. Did you find it, Anne?
Luca, did you find one? Right, have a look. Have a look somewhere here, Luca.
You find it
Have a look. Did you find it?
Ruby, you're the speech sound queen.
And another one.
Did you find one too?
Did you find one, Luca?
One like this.
And another one. Look, another one.
Oh, Axel.
Wow. Well done, Axel.
Well, where's the Anne? Up there, round the apple, up down the leaf. Here's the last one. Who's going to play with the train this time, I wonder?
Oh, Michael.
Okay, did you find one, Michael? Oh, how clever. Are you ready to take a picture?
I got it.
And we say down, Nobby, over his neck. Who can find it?
And another one.
Luca found one. Give me a high
Did you find one?
Did you find one? Let's see.
Lenny, did you find
Oh, there it is.
There
it is. The picture for Did you see it?
Lenny!
High
You can
five.
play. You've got to find one.
Yes.
You can play with it.
What about you, Michael? Did you find one?
Yeah, show it to the camera. Show it to the camera.
Look.
Oh,
They also search for sound pics in ordinary objects like cereal packets, chip packets, and don't get hung up on whether it actually is a picture of that sound at the beginning. Like in Frosties, they're covering over the S at the end, but that's actually not a picture of S. That's a picture of Z. Frosties. Listen to that. So the only real sound pic for S in Frosties is that first one. But don't get hung up on that. You might mention that, but we're actually just looking for some pictures of S, just that one sound pic or A or T or whatever. If you have iPads, you'll of course need the SSP Spelling Piano App. That's from us, from SSP, the SSP Spelling Piano App. And I'd also suggest that you get Pocket Phonics. You can also get the Pocket Rocket readers for Android. But contact me if you've got any questions about suitable apps and what have you. But these two are the best. Now, at the same time as the children are discovering how to code map green level words, so they're learning how to encode, which is spelling, and how to decode, which is reading. Well, it's being able to tell you what the word is. Reading actually is putting it together with comprehension. What we're going to do is we're going to show them these high frequency words, and we're going to say here's duck level 1. These are the King's helpful words, and first of all show them the two words in there, it, and itten, in. So we can work those out. Why can we work those out? Because we know that's a picture for I, that's a picture for t, and we know how to follow the sounds, say the words, so we know that's it and that's in. But the other ones are made up of sound pics we've not looked at before. Now some of the children say, ah, I can see ah. But then you'll say, right, listen to this sentence. Listen to when I'm going to say this. I am going to a party. Don't I say I'm going to a party or I'm going to a party? Well, this is actually a picture for a. So we've got it, in. They might recognise a and say a, but we're going to say this is actually a picture of a. So they've actually got a new concept there, that when we look at them, it's not always going to be the same speech sound. It could be a different speech sound. In this case, that a represents the a sound. So what we're saying is these words, we're going to learn these words because these are helpful words. They're going to let us read and write more complex sentences. And that's a challenge. That's what we want. And you might look at the word and you might say, oh, that's green level sound pic. That's a green level sound pic. Well, we're actually going to look at the purple level. But just for now, you'll already know what it is because we've just looked at it. And when you move up to the purple level, you're already going to know that one. Now you know these words, so just map them with the speech sounds. So speech sounds to sound pics, it's called code mapping. It, I, my, itten, in, I, the, we, aft, after, or you might say aft, after, however you say it, and, all. So that's your first level. For the children to get their certificate, they have to be able to follow the sounds, say the word, and they also have to be able to duck, you give them the word, and they have to be able to duck hand it, lines, numbers, and make the choices. If they can read them and spell them, they get duck level 1, and they move up to duck level 2. There are 7 levels, so there are actually 400 coded sight words. They're the same words. I think we got them for magic words or whatever. We've also coded Dolch words. We've coded the New South Wales recommended 100 frequency words. They're just words. They're just high frequency words. But what we've done is we've code mapped them. So for the brain, and there's also the videos, just put the video on and the words come up and you can hear my voice, it, etc. And the children just watch it, take it all in. But the children will learn 4 times as many words in half the time if you do it that way. And we also have coded sight word videos to music, Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, what have you, whatever the children are interested in. We actually get the chorus or some parts of the words of the songs and we code map it. So the children sing along, but they're also flashing in front of them the words, and they're coded like this. All we've done is every time you change the speech sound, it goes from black to grey, black to grey, black to grey. And it helps the brain see how to split it. So instead of just using AFTER, well, if a child was to try and do that as most phonics programs, like or after, it doesn't always work. We actually want the brain to see it's so that ER is actually a representation of And some of the children are also, when their brains are doing this, they'll also say, oh, so that, if they're using letter names. If not, they'll just say, well, that one's a picture for and that's a picture for looking at that A. Or if they do know the letter names, they might go, so that ER in that word after, that's a picture for and that A is a picture for And so what their brains are doing is thinking, oh, okay, and making sense of it. If you try and teach phonics as in looking at the A and saying it says it just doesn't work like that. It's far too hard. And that's why we take a speech to print approach. So if a child isn't sure of a word, tell them the word and then code map it. They really like them in the flip book. We've also got the green level flip book, which has got all the skills and concepts needed in green. So you've got code recognition, phonemic awareness, the code recognition blending into the word, using those words in sentences. We've got speedy sentences in there. You've got your duck level 1 in there. You've got basically everything you need for the green level in a flip book. You can order that separately from the shop. I think they're $15. But it's really important that children don't just look at S and say S or I and say I, but they can actually use them to read words, to read sentences, and to understand what reading is. So taking the book from left to right, that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. You've got speedy sentences which are coded. Some have capital letters, some don't, because we say the speech sound frog is always trying to eat the capital letters and the full stop, and we're introducing punctuation even within this first level. But the children need to be able to scan it and say it in a speaking voice. They work in pairs, so they're doing speedy paired decoding. So the child who points is the one who says the word, and the other child does the follow the sounds part. So, for example, if a child was pointing to the word like stan, the other child is going st-a-n. The child who's pointing goes stan, and they carry on till the end of the sentence and read it together. So they do that in pairs. You've also got the rap, and they need to be able to do the rap in about 14 seconds or less to move up to the purple level. So you're splitting your coded readers into the green, purple, yellow and blue. And so the children on green level are constantly getting sentences, books, reinforcement for critical thinking, for comprehension. And there are lots and lots of green level books and readers that we have, even though we've only got 6 sound pics. It's really amazing. You get the pocket rockets, which are essential, and the children love them, but also go to sspreaders.com, and then I've organised them all for you, so you know which readers to have in green bucket, your purple, your yellow, your blue. And remember, by the time the children have got to the end of blue, they are reading chapter books for pleasure independently. What happens is, to start off with, the brain is telling the eyes to look at each word, and it's literally like But then what happens as you move towards the end of purple is that the brain start to tell the eyes to scan ahead. And then as you're moving even further towards blue, if you were to look at the eyes, the brain is actually telling the eyes to scan large chunks to get the information. So the brain-eyes information processing system changes. And this is also why it then changes how you assess children, because the more then children start to read to themselves, their eyes don't look at every word. So then if you ask a child to read aloud for an assessment, it's going to sound sometimes as if they're not reading with fluency, and that's not the case at all. It's because they've been used to reading to themselves quickly, and their eyes don't do that. Having to read aloud is a different skill. So if you want children to be able to read aloud with expression, like with public speaking, then they need to practice that. If you actually want them to read quickly and to get the comprehension like they would in NAPLAN, then you need to let them read it to themselves and ask the questions afterwards. Don't then confuse things by asking them to read aloud. It just doesn't work like that. So decide what it is that you're assessing and assess that. But you need to understand the reading brain. You need to understand the brain-eyes information processing system. So when the children are recognising the visual prompts, they're understanding how to draw a line for every speech sound to sit on, not just necessarily in green level words. It can be anything, hot dog. So they know to go line, 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 space, because it's a new word, line, line, line. And they understand to go 1, 2, 3 underneath, because it's hot, and then 1, 2, 3 again for dog, dog. And it doesn't matter that we're doing hot dog and that we don't do or d or g until the purple level. It doesn't matter, because in this, on the top activity, which is just visual prompts, we're not doing any letters anyway, so it doesn't matter. They haven't got to fill in the lines with sound pics. They're just literally listening for them. Use the poster round about week 4 or week 5 at the latest. I would use the poster as early as you can, when the children are understanding what we're doing. And to start off with, like when, for example, on underneath the visual prompts, where they say it and draw it, it might just be a case of you say, right, can everyone point to the picture of S? Now, can everyone point to the picture of A? Can everyone point to the picture of T? Can everyone point to the picture of P? It's as easy as that. Or it might be, can everyone point to the picture of S? Now write it on your board. Remember, slither down the snake, etc., etc. So you're really getting the whole class to do it together, because very quickly then they're going to be able to just do it on their own. And that's when the children are doing is differentiated teaching. But with the poster, it means every day it's reinforcing what they did the day before, but then adding on, so they're moving on every single day. Here's a picture of a child in preschool. We did it in the first week, and that was purely because I wanted to get them used to the poster and where they put their board to organise it. And all I was doing was saying, can you circle b or ak, k, at? And seeing if they could hear those two words, black cat, and circle it. And I know if they've heard it, because they'll circle it. So if I said, where's the red boot? They'll circle it to see, and I know they can hear it. So it's a phonemic awareness. So know your children, but use the resources in the most effective way as quickly as possible. So they're learning how to use the SSP spelling strategy right from the very beginning, just by saying the word, using your duck hands, and then when they're drawing the lines and numbers, all of that is phonemic awareness, but that is essential for the spelling process. Then it's just a case of what sound pics do we use. Now have all of your clouds up on the walls, because even though when we're introducing the pictures of the sounds, we're saying this is the first picture we're going to learn for A, and this is the first one for N and for T. You've got them all on the board. On the wall, sorry. So you've got all of the clouds up for all 4 levels, not just green, but purple, yellow and blue as well. And keep them in order. So you keep them in order of green, and then purple, and then yellow, then blue. You could hang them from washing from strings, as if they're washing lines or whatever, but try and keep them in the same place, because the children get to know where the S cloud is, for example, or the A cloud. And when they're spelling words and they're not sure, they'll look at the choices, and they do that very, very early on. So start introducing the spelling cloud poems in silly rhyme time, which is your last activity of the literacy block. There's a poem for every single speech sound cloud. So this one is the and it's much easier for the children if, for example, you say the poem. They might even close their eyes and listen for that sound and wiggle their fingers when they hear that sound, and then they open their eyes, and then you're going to show them where you're reading bam. Where do we hear the We heard it at the end. Can you see the picture of Well, have a look in the cloud. Can you find the right sound pick for in the cloud? Which is the sound pick that's in the cloud that's in the word bam? Or which is the one that's in the word hammer? So it really helps the children. You're not trying to get the children to remember all these. You're telling the children, you're teaching children about the skills and the concepts, so they understand what reading and spelling is. And bottom line, it all depends on code mapping. So you also use the story of the magic ant. And this again it brings meaning and life to the whole story. The speech sound king found an ant one day. It was digging in the garden growing corn. He realised the ant was not an ordinary ant, so he left him with his hoe on the lawn. The next day the king watched the ant with a rock, as he carried it a mile on his own. Never had he seen an ant with such powers, such a big heavy rock, but not a moan. Then he discovered why the ant was so strong, and watched with a look of alarm. The ant lifted weights, and he ran on the spot. Then he lifted his weight with one arm. "What kind of an ant," thought the king to himself, "is able to do all these things? He works out and gardens, gets hot dogs and sauce. I bet he can play, dance and sing." The king had a son, but he lived far away, so he sent for his servant called Stan. He wanted to send to the prince right away the ant with a snack in a pan. How would the prince know to keep the lid shut so the ant couldn't run away? He needed to send him a message. He needed to find a new way. He thought of the sounds when he said these three words. Ant in pan has just 5 different sounds. An a and a n and a t, I and p. But he scratches at his head as he frowns. If I draw 4 sound pictures and draw them a line from the left to the right in the book, he might work it out. He might work out the code. He must use his brain power and look. To write every word that we say speaking English, he sorted the clouds for each sound. And now he is asking if you can join in and tell us of new ones you found. So they're understanding about writing, just being talking on paper, and that there's a code and they're trying to crack it. They're speech sound detectives and they understand the story with the king. The king is a central character in the whole SSP story. They're trying to find sound pics that Miss Emma, that's me obviously, Miss Emma has missed, and if they do, I write them a poem. Everything becomes meaningful. There's a code book. The king has a code book. So children become interested in the dictionary. They become interested in spelling because it's a code, because it's a puzzle, something they're trying to work out. Now, the last thing I just want to talk to you about what you're covering in the first 4 or 5 weeks of SSP when you're using this for the first time with children in prep, or even year 1 if children are going into year 1 still not reading. So one of the things I really need to talk to you about is rapid writing. It's when you first start teaching them to write independently. There's a video clip called Rapid Writing, and I show how we start off with sentence construction or whatever with the children in the early stages. Because remember, in the early stages, we're only coding with SATPIN and with high frequency words. So there's no point in you just asking them to write a sentence, and there is absolutely no point in asking the children to copy the sentence underneath. That is not how children learn to write. They don't see what you're writing, copy it, and then miraculously they can write their own sentences. Just doesn't work like that. So we need to scaffold this as well. And until children can actually write sentences using the green level sound pics and the first set of helpful words, they aren't ready to be writing for independent writing for sentences. How can they be? They don't know the sound pics for the words they're going to want to write. So what you need to do is 2 things. First of all, you need to help them to be able to write sentences using the green level sound pics. So you're actually, you might give them a sentence like, right, we're going to write sit and spin. So you might even talk about, first of all, how many words? Sit and spin. There are going to be 3. So don't forget, we're going to put our finger spaces in between so we make sure people know where the words are. But sit, how many lines do we need for sit? It, and you draw the lines. Now we need this finger space. Sit and finger space, it and spin. Sit and spin. So then you might play it, then you might there's sit, where does the to sit, whatever. But you're going to use your lines and numbers, but just within sentences, not just words. And then the children fill in the lines because they know the sound pics for those. They can actually do it. So we want children to be able to, you can even use your speedy sentences. So they're reading them when you're doing speedy sentences for reading in the morning, but they can also be writing them. Get them used to writing them quickly and easily, because whilst they're doing that, they're actually understanding what writing sentences is all about. Now, of course, when they're writing their green level sentences, you can make it more exciting. Then they'll naturally start to do it anyway. So you might say, well, you can change it, add a new word in if you want, make it more exciting. And they'll think of things. It is a stinky pan. So what they'll do is they'll think stinky, st-i-n-k-e, stinky. So they'll do the lines and then they'll put in the sound pics they know, and they might ask you which one goes in the k, or which one goes in the or which goes in the e, and then you help them by adding that in, or you get the clouds and you show them the, like for sting, remember that n is a representation for so get the cloud out and show them it's this one, st-i-n-k-e. So you're not dropping them in the deep end by saying, right, write a sentence or whatever. You're building from what they already know. What you can also do is, as a whole class or in small groups, is really develop a writer's voice even before they can actually write it. So lots of oral language, you can use picture stimuluses, a whole range of things. So you're talking about a story, creating a story orally. It might just be their news. It might just be what they did at the weekend, a recount of what happened at the weekend. So supposing on here we've been talking about what happened, why do you think it happened, what's going to happen, all sorts of things you're talking about. The children can talk to the teacher, the children can talk to each other, they can relate it to experiences they've had themselves. There's the whole range of oral language, of the verbal intelligence, because again, this is your foundation. This is what matters, the oral language, to be able to decide what you want to say before you put it down on paper. If you don't know what you want to say or how to say it, how are you going to put it down on paper? Even when you've learnt the sound pics that will represent the speech sounds you're going to use when you're putting it down on paper. So you've got to really scaffold absolutely everything you do. But you might have a stimulus, and then as a class you've decided on the sentence you're going to write. In this particular one, it might have been the children might have decided we're going to write the little girl was scared of the dog, let's say. And then you'll be showing them on the board how you would write that sentence. So you're going to show them with lines first of all, the space, because that's the end of that word, it, all, little, space, girl. So you're going to keep going, and then what you actually find is you need to check which of the children that are remembering, so working memory, which of the children that are remembering what we're actually writing. The little girl was scared of the dog. Once you've finished it, you might ask them to identify where a certain word is. Where's the word little? So again, they've got to track it from left to right, following those words. The little girl was scared of the dog. So the last one, dog, dog. You might talk about, right, we're finished, so let's put the full stop. Then you might start filling it in, and you start from the left to the right, because the children will say, where, like the I, all, it, all. Well, we're doing I in the green levels, so the children will know which is the picture for I. But what you're doing whilst you're doing this is showing them how to create a sentence, showing them that when they know the pictures for those speech sounds, they can fill it in. So the more speech sound pics they learn, the more they're going to be able to write and read independently. It's just a code, it's just a puzzle, and they're just learning it. So by the time you get to about week 5, or the end of week 5 of using SSP in prep, you need to be thinking about really making sure you are actually now starting to follow phase 2 routine. So starting off with speedy decoding, get parents in. Parents love to help in prep. There's much more likely to be able to get helpers in prep. Then onto the code level brain training video, which is about 10 minutes long. Then do your speedy 6. Then your poster work. Then you're writing for a purpose. Don't worry about cracking comprehension, because they're comprehending what they're reading and they're writing whilst they're doing it. You don't actually have to do a comprehension activity, because they're already doing it in the other activities. Until they're actually reading and writing more comprehensively, there's no point doing cracking comprehension. And come together for silly rhyme time. So you might do your spelling cloud poems, but there are actually lots and lots of silly rhymes that you can do. I write them for the children all the time, if the children found sound pics, or I visit them in schools. So really focus on oral comprehension to begin with. Okay, so hopefully that's about covered the things that you'll be doing in the first 4 or 5 weeks. If you've got any questions, just ask. Post a message on Facebook, or if you're in the members area, post a question in the support forum. Please support each other. If you've created resources that are just brilliant, please share them, then we can all use them. I know this goes without saying, but those precious little darlings that you have in prep, just cherish them. They're amazing. And you are going to be instrumental in how they view school. So make it fun. Make sure every child feels amazing about themselves and is succeeding, but also challenging themselves. Thanks for watching.